Leo, you ready?
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming today. This is the Tuesday, February 20th, 2024, 3 o'clock council meeting. Item number 1, meeting called to order and roll call.
Ms. Cusimano? Here. Mr. Moran?
Here.
Ms. Meyer? Here. Mr. Randall?
Here.
Ms. Moniz?
Here.
Mr. McCluskey?
Here.
Mr. Everhart?
Here. Okay. Item B, remind the public there's no food allowed in the council chambers, and remind the public that cell phone ordinance SBPC 815-02-08. Invocation by Councilmember Everhart and the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Moran. Please rise. Lord, we thank you for your grace and mercy, Lord. We come to you together today and humbly ask that you keep your covering over the residents of your parish, Lord. We humbly ask that you help us make good, sound, wise decisions today at this council meeting. We ask this all in your precious name, Jesus. Amen.
At this time, I'd like to yield the floor to one of the ladies that are here with AG.
The mic's on.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Joe. Councilman Moore. Motion to recognize any elected officials in the audience. I see former council member Ray Loga. Am I missing anybody? Oh, former Constable Merritt Landry's in the audience too. Thank you guys for coming. Item number 1, motion to approve minutes from the February 6, 2024 regular council meeting as published in the official journal, the St. Bernard Voice, on Friday, February 16, 2024. Moved by Mr. Randall, seconded by Mr. McCluskey. Any additions, deletions? Seeing none, vote your machines. All right, recognition. Item carries, I'm sorry. Recognitions. Motion to recognize Howard Luna for a check presentation to the St. Bernard Parish Animal Shelter from Mystic Crew of Barkus. Mr. Loga came in and he called and he said that he wasn't going to be here, and we're going to move him to the next.
You said Loga, it's Mr. Luna.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Luna, my bad.
Next meeting.
Mr. Luna. Mr. Luna is going to be, he's going to ask to carry it over to the next council meeting. He'll present the check. Item number 3, motion to recognize Wayne Burgess with LSU Ag Center. Joint motion. Without objection. Joint motion. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President, Council, Administration. Normally we come and give just like a regular update sometime during the year, and we're just kind of getting around to it right now. But what I do have here as well is these are part of our high school club. We have a club at the high school, but also we have a club that we meet once a month called the Junior Leadership Club, where we meet here in the building at night. And so I got them here today. They're going to introduce themselves to y'all, and then our president of our Junior Leadership Club is going to go over an update with y'all.
Hi, I'm Paige Duche. I'm the reporter/photographer for 4-H, and I've been in 4-H since 4th grade.
Hi, I'm Selena Lee, and I'm the secretary and treasurer of 4-H. I've been in 4-H since 10th grade.
Hi, I'm Gabby Thor. I'm the vice president, and I've been in 4-H since 6th grade.
Hi, I'm Katie Hambryce. I am our president, and I also serve on the State Louisiana Executive Board as a Southeast representative, and I've been in 4-H since 5th grade.
All right, so now we're just going to give y'all a kind of a quick update of the 4-H calendar year.
So these are just some events that we've had each month. In October, we had the bicycle rodeo where we had about 50 kids come out and compete. 90. We also had the CHS 9th and 10th grade New Orleans trip where they went and learned about the history of New Orleans. We had the CHS Swamp Tour where they went and learned about, our coast and different things that have to do with it, what's affecting our coast and how can we fix that. In November, we had the pet show at Dockville, and there was about 72 kids who came and participated with their pets. We had challenge camp for the 7th and 8th graders, and 12 of them went to that. And there was also this black mangrove potting field trip for the CHS kids, and about 20 participated in that. In December, they had the 11th and 12th grade New Orleans trip, which was the same thing. In January, we had the cooking contest, and we had 101 kids come and submit dishes. We also had the Pelicans game, which we had about 400 kids show up to that.
Kids and parents on that one.
In February, we have the cook-off for Coast, which is happening this Saturday, that we're going to have some junior leaders members go to that and help out. In upcoming, we have March, we have the Islenios Festival, which we're all hoping to get some kids out there to help out and get some 4-Hers to attend that. We also have the Junior Leaders Conference, and we have 6 currently going. And we also have Ag Magic happening down at Dockville, and we're expected to have about 3,000 people attend that. In April, we're going to plant the black mangroves, and we expect about 20 kids to attend that. We have Wetlands Day.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Wetlands Day is something that Dominique, our Sea Grant agent, Dominique Seabird got for us. And it is a grant. And we did it a couple of years ago with a couple of the schools. This year, we're going to be doing Miro, Smith, and Chalmette Elementary. And that's where we take them over to the marina. And we have like a round robin thing we do with them. It's all coastal related, but we also have the pontoon boat and the large airboat that Monty has, and we take the kids out on as well.
In May, we have Marsh Dogs, which is a camp run by Mr. Wayne, where he takes a couple of the high schoolers to go learn about our coast, and we go down the Mississippi, we go to stay at different places. In June, we have 4-H camp, and we have 98 kids go to that, and a couple of the high schoolers as counselors. And then we have 4-H University, where we have about 12 high schoolers attend that. And this year, our junior leaders has tried to have a service learning project every month. So some of the ones that we've done this year is the Thanksgiving food drive, where we collected food at the school and donated it to the food bank. We also collected art supplies for the ARC. We did that back in January. We did socks for the homeless, so we got bundles of socks and we wrote notes to them and we gave them to a homeless shelter. We're planning on doing putty Easter eggs for the special ed kids over at Chalmette High, and then we go and do some games and, get to hang out with them for a little bit. And we're also planning on doing a book drive in April to try to raise books for any schools that are in need of them.
Very impressive.
Okay, so basically that was just kind of real quick synopsis of the 4-H calendar year. The one thing I wanted to say that I don't have very good handwriting, she can't read it. When we do the putty for the high school kids, the special ed kids don't have real good grip sometimes. So they actually have a series of putties. They go from like 0 to 10, I want to say. And so you pick out, we're at like level 2. And so we put them in Easter eggs and we bring them over there, and the kids use them to actually build up their muscles inside their hands for their grip. So it's really a good project. And we've been doing that one for about 4, 5, 6 years, maybe. And the teachers really enjoy it too. The kids get a kick out of it. But I just want to say, look, Two things. One is Ag Magic is coming up. We're going to send y'all some invites for Ag Magic. That's a week-long down at Dockville. I can't think of the dates right off the top of my head, but it's coming up. It's in March. And just to say thanks for y'all support, because we can't do what we do without y'all support. Okay, both administration, and parish council. Okay, so thank you so much. Because, and like some of these things that we do, we also, I never get the opportunity to actually thank him, but I want to thank the sheriff as well, because when we do our Black Mangrove pottings and plantings, we use the sheriff's boats to take the kids out on and to get them back safely. And we couldn't do it without their support. So I just want to thank everybody that's involved in this.
Wayne, it's always a pleasure for having you come up here and give us updates. What you do with these kids is phenomenal.
It's okay.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm trying to, but and I want to thank you for inviting me all the time to come out to your cookouts, and we talk with the kids, and to see them kids, how interesting they are, interested in all of our marshlands and our ecosystem is really amazing, man. I mean, hopefully, ladies, y'all stay into this and move on and get some jobs with the state or whatever, and it's really enjoyable to do. It's not really called work if you enjoy what you do and being on the open environment. It's a great profession, and I know Wayne enjoys his job, Mr. Burgess, and thank you again for everything that you do for our kids. Mr. McCluskey has a word.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wayne, thank you so much for what you do, and thank you for bringing this information to these young people and making agriculture fun. And I actually had a question for Madam President. You seem like you had a pretty full calendar that you rattled off there. So this isn't going to be anything other than an invitation. So every year we celebrate the Battle of New Orleans here in St. Bernard. And we were very fortunate to have some high school participants, Sherman High School participants, dress out last year. Were you aware of that?
Like as the cultural dancers, last year I was a cultural dancer.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, this year I couldn't, but last year I was.
Wonderful. So we actually purchased some British uniforms, right? Because one of the things that always holds the battle back is that we don't have enough British to shoot at, right? So we need to get some more Brits out there, so it's more historically accurate. And obviously, we like to see people fall down. But I just wanted to say how wonderfully impressive you are. As an organization, as young people. We're so proud to have you. Bruce, thank you for your leadership with this. And if anybody wants to come get shot at, invitation's open. I know you have a full calendar. And we look forward to seeing more from you. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Wayne, I'd like to hold on one more thing. If you ever need help with these kids to do coastal projects and the sheriff doesn't have enough boats, get with the parish president and we can help you out as much as we can, just to make sure that you can get your projects and get them kids out there and have enjoy their what you call
Thanks so much.
I don't know.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Where we at? Motion to item number 4. Motion to receive an update on capital projects from the department. Mr. Logan, without objection. Seeing none.
Good afternoon, Council. I've distributed the packets up there. I'm going to kind of go through these, but feel free to interrupt me at any time if you got a question about one of these or if there's a project I don't bring up. So I'm on page 1, Lake Leary Phase 2. I sent the letter to the contractor asking them, request them to remobilize so they can go out there and finish that project. I haven't got a response yet, but if I don't get a response back, I'm going to follow it up with a certified letter, and we'll start following the contract terms to go into performance bond to make a claim on that one. So that one is going to start moving forward there. The Barrier Island project is about 95% design complete. John, you have anything else we need to do in coastal? Okay. The Tara Buff is complete, yes. And what I've done too is I've been moving the ones that are complete to the back so that all the completed projects don't take up so much space. I'm trying to cut down on the number of pages here, but I'll move Tara Buff. I'll close that one up and move that one to the back for the next report. Parish Road Storage Building, right now, that project was bid, and That one is, we're pending award, but we're trying to make a decision whether we're going to move forward with that project or not right now at this point. Page 2, the Seafood Market Pavilions, moving forward with the design. Valreese turf replacement, I completed those bid documents and gave them to DPW last week, so I'm sure those will be going into procurement and going out to take in, putting that out for public bid to get those in for that to get going, that project. Library's moving along. The foundations is just getting ready to get coming out the ground. They pouring the foundations right now. Jean Lafitte mixed-use path is under design. 40 ARPANT. Right now, we're doing hydro seeding and striping, and that'll only take about a week, but the only thing left is the crosswalk at Parish Road we're waiting on, and that's really been held up for about 2 months with a permit from the Flood Authority. We got to bore a conduit under Parish Road for the lighting signals there, and so as soon as that permit comes in, the electrician will go out there and knock that out, and then we'll be able to wrap that project up for 40 ARPANT. I know I see a lot of people on it a lot of times. It's really a nice project. Being able to get from Alexander to Garrett Drive on there is really nice. So, bridge is under design. RPC has said they've still got the funding in place to move that project. That's the bridge that goes over Parish Road at 40 ARPANT. The jail security system, that project's in design right now. They're wrapping that up. That's going to be for new intercom, surveillance, and door locking hardware, that project there. Jail roof replacement is in substantial completion right now, so the roof's on there. We're just closing up all the documentation at this point. I'm on page 4 right now. The playgrounds, Vista and Patricia, we only had one bidder come in, and St. Bernard Parish policy and OCD policy is that we can't accept bids if we only have one bidder. So that project is going out for re-advertisement next Friday, and we'll do the bidding period and get bids back in on that. And we've already got another bidder that's interested, so I know next time we'll have at least 2 for that one. Reunion Drive Playground, we got quotes received on that one, and we're going to do state contract for the playground equipment, and we got quotes in for all the rest of the concrete and the site work there. MRT, the Mississippi River Trail 1 and 2, that project's kind of wrapping up. We're going through punch list items right now for that one. On page 5, I have Old Abbey Streetscape. That's just the only part that's left to that is the little parking lot behind St. Claude Arts. Right now, we're waiting for the LDEQ clearance letter. We had the site mitigated, and we're waiting for the clearance letter. And once that's done, we'll go ahead and do the parking lot and get that completed there. The Wellness Center, the grants manager has been awarded, and Ochsner has reaffirmed their commitment to supplying funds towards that project. Moving through, we got a bunch of new water projects right now that are just getting into design that are funded by the new water loan number 3 and 4, and you can see those on page 5 and 6. And I actually listed the streets where new water lines are going on there, so you can see exactly which streets the water lines are going in on. Moving down to next kind of update is page 8. We have the Lambert Pump Station upgrades. That one is wrapping up. The contractor told me they'd be wrapped up by the first week of March, but I think it's going to probably go to the second or third week in March. But they're making some progress right now and finally getting that wrapped up, and we'll get that extra lane opened back up. The 4th sewer line replacement for Danielle Drive. The costs were starting to really overrun there, so we went back. Hillary came up with a great idea to redo a lift station as opposed to redoing the line, and it's really going to bring those costs down. Our cost was almost up to $4 million. You can see we only had $1.4 million in funding, and I think this other design with putting a small lift station there is going to bring it back in the budget there. So we're doing that design. We're analyzing that to make sure that all the engineer numbers work out, but I think we're going to get that project back on track. Vance Trailer Park sewer line, we have a scope change there. We're not having the ability to work out who's going to take ownership of the land, so I think we got another route we're going to go to get that park back online with the sewer system and get them checked in there. On page 9, I have we have Charles Court Bridge demo on there. We had demoed that bridge there because it was restricting the culverts and the flow underneath there. The state actually contacted us that they have it on their list to go ahead and put that bridge back in place with state funding. So I'm just kind of giving you an update on that one. I haven't seen any paperwork, but that they did call and talk about that. So we may be having that bridge funded by the state go back in service there. So I'll follow with them and see where they're what their timeline is, but they were looking like 2025 is what they told me originally, so. Garinger Bridge Canal, both abutments have been poured in place. This is the bridge at the end of Cougar Drive. The precast sections, which will actually span across the canal, are scheduled to be delivered at the end of this month. Moving on to page 10, we have the Buccaneer Villa North Drainage. That's in litigation right now. We went to court. We got awarded in our favor. They were trying to do a mandamus against us, but we got that. We won that decision there, and then now there's some additional litigation on. But in the meantime, we're proceeding forward with the performance bond, where the performance bond insurance company will hire a contractor and come complete that project. So we're moving forward in that direction there. Old Abbey Drainage. We had the original set of projects with design. We were at about 14 million, but we only had about 10 million in funding with the American Rescue Plan. So I kind of reorganized this now. You can see on that top part with the cleaning and the ditch cleaning, all that project's done. And then now we're moving forward with the Florida Walk and the Old Abbey Streets point repairs. And so those two projects are the only two that are going to move forward with, and they're going to be awarded this month. And we were able to get those three projects back down under the $10 million to move on. If you go to the top of page 11, you can see the projects that were put on hold in order for us to get us back in budget there. And we do have some additional funding that we're seeking right now in grants for Patricia Street Conspan and Dubuchel Conspan. And so I actually have a meeting with him tomorrow, I think, to go over the progress on that. Miscellaneous drainage improvements. This is 4 different areas. They're wrapping up the CCTV and Avala lines this week, and then we'll sit down and based on what they saw with the cameras, they'll go ahead and make decisions on what parts are going to be repaired, which ones are going to be a whole new line put in, and which ones can be repaired. So we'll go through that process of defining the scope, and then we'll go ahead and proceed. We already have that contract awarded, so once we get all the decisions made with the engineering firm, that should start moving pretty quick. Sylvia State Pump Stations is in design, and Dubuchel Conspan, like I said, is a grant opportunity we're pursuing right now. And if you flip over to page 12, you can see our remaining project managements for IDA, Zeta, and COVID. And then I put all the completed projects at the end there so that you can see all the projects that I've moved from the top of the list to the bottom. So that's it in a 10-minute brief. So if you got any questions, I can answer them for you.
Yeah, Ray, we sure do. Mr. McCluskey. Oh, John, I'm sorry. Hold on, Mr. McCluskey. Mr. Moran was before you.
Oh. Boy, thank you. Mr. Logan, just a few questions. Going down the list, you mentioned the turf replacement. So do we have a scheduled date on that? I know we've gone.
Okay, so I just gave the set to procurement last week, so they'll put it out. You figure it's a month of public bid, and probably a month to get it, the contract awarded and executed. So you're probably talking about 2 months. Unfortunately, it's going to really get into our baseball season. It's fields 1 through 4, but if we have to go ahead and I don't know what the lead time is for the material too. So more than likely, we're probably looking at getting it into the fall, at least sliding it back to the fall to get it replaced for the fall.
And so with the bids that come in, that's going to be bids that won't be adjusted with inflation that comes in the next couple months or anything because we're holding off on a project?
No, I can't promise it.
Right, I'm just looking at
what I do have some alternates in there, so we can get, if we do have some budgetary issues, we can go down there. We had some recommendations on some infills like that, but then I have some other ones, which is the base bid contains the same brand matrix as the type of turf we have on fields 1 through 4. And so we're rebidding that. There's some infill options there that provide a lot better cooling effect, but based on the price, if not, we'll have to go down to like a coconut fill, which will be a little bit, it won't be as expensive, but it won't be a better product. But I do have a couple alternates in there so that we can adjust to make sure we get the number we need to make it work.
I'm just going to go kind of down a list of things I kind of wrote down. Seafood market, is that going to be held up at all based on what's going on with the retention pond? Is that going to?
No, that's independent.
That's going to be seamless?
The only one that's being held up with the retention pond is the Chenier Trail on there. The Chenier Trail is the only one that's going to be affected by the retention pond dragging out.
Water projects, you said that there's a list of a map with all the water pipes that are gonna be replaced? Is it,
If you look on my sheet, I put street names underneath
You do have
each water
street, okay.
product. So yeah, if you need the exact maps like that, we can go ahead and get those to you. We have a preliminary, based on the loan that we went and got for the water lines, we had to provide exactly which water lines were being replaced. So that's available. It's a preliminary sketch though.
and then, the miscellaneous drainage projects, is that, so what I'm understanding is we're going through kind of, looking at all the areas that we might need improvements, and then the video is going to show us what improvements we're going to make moving forward?
So to give you the back history on that, there was, Mr. Pomez went around and pointed out 4 distinct areas that had drainage issues. He went with the engineers, they identified them, and now they're cameraing those 4 areas. They're just about finishing that camera work. And now, based on that camera, there's some different types of repairs. You can put a liner inside the drain pipe so that you can kind of reline the pipe if it's possible. Sometimes if the pipe's deteriorated too bad, you can't line it, and in that case, we'll have to do a trench and pull the whole line up and replace it.
And Mr. Pomez or John or Donna, could we get a list of just the areas where those projects are being considered at?
Yeah, I got a list for you. I can get that over to you.
Okay. And then one of the last things is, you have on here the bridge crossing at Genie and Golden. I know it's not budgeted, and the amount that's on the list, Ray, is that including a match, or is there any options for a match for state money for that?
We were originally trying to go to as an off-network funding program that the state has, but we were trying to get it funded with that, but the state came back and said that that particular crossing didn't qualify for that off-network funding. No, not that one. I thought the other one they called us back is the Charles Court one is the one they had funding. Yeah, I got that crossed up? Okay. Well, then,
Okay.
we're going to have one bridge crossing put in there, put it that way. I'll clarify it on my next report.
Yeah,
which one
just
it
if
is.
we clarify whichever one that is,
That's fine.
it would be perfect. But that's everything for me, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moran. Mr. McCluskey?
Thank you, Council Chair. Councilman Loga, how are you?
Good.
Appreciate it. That was impressive that you got through all of those pages in 10 minutes. But I do have some, I guess, really reiterations more.
Okay.
Not much more than that, right? So, with regard to the DOTD funded project, Buccaneerville and North Drainage Retention Ponds, right? It sounded to me like you said, we are going to be able to, as a result of the case ruling, and recognize this is legal, so I'm trying to be selective with my words, we are going to be able to hire a second contractor through the contractor's performance bond. Are we at that phase right now?
Okay. So the
is that
way
a fair
it works
assessment?
is that when you bid a public project and you require a performance bond, an insurance company provides the performance bond. If the contractor doesn't perform, then you make a claim on his insurance bond, and then the insurance company actually steps into the general contractor's shoes. So all the agreements that are in place with the original contract now are in place with the insurance company. The insurance company themselves are going to hire their whatever contractor, whoever contractor they want to come complete the work. They're just responsible for getting the work completed.
Well, I guess my question was, really not so much the procedure, but, from an order of operations standpoint, are we currently engaged with the insurer, and the
Yes.
insurer is actively seeking a contractor to complete the work?
Okay, so we sent them their letters, we put them on notice, they requested a bunch of information from us, and it was a pretty voluminous amount of information they wanted. We just about got that information completed, and we're gonna send back to them, because they're not just gonna say, they wanna do their own investigation
fully
next, so
employ
yeah.
that, right,
So we're in
so-
that process right now.
So that answers my question fully. So we are in the information gathering phase where they will make the determination whether or not to hire a contractor or
Yes.
potentially deny the claim.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Vista and Patricia, you've been excellent about keeping up with me on communications as to where those projects are. I know we ran through a whole bunch real fast, so in case anybody missed it, we only had one bidder. That forces us to rebid the project. We got clarification from the state that was the case, and that's in accordance with our own laws. So the date that we are going to be opening bids is 30 days from this coming Friday. Is that accurate?
More about, yeah, we're close. It's close enough for government work, yes.
Close enough for government work, but it's a scary statement. With that said, Old Araby Drainage. First off, I'd like to thank Mr. Pomez, because it was your willingness to come along with a goofy District 8 councilman who had an idea that kind of led us to this whole process, right? So thank you for your knowledge, sir, and thank you for your willingness to do that. And I'm more than sure that's what's guiding Ray's efforts in selecting what is the meat on the bone, so to speak.
Yes.
One of the questions that I had about that selection, and we don't have to get into it in detail here tonight, but if you can just kind of give me an overview. It feels to me like the point repair would be a correct place for us to kind of select that number down. You know, we went through, there's an email chain 74 miles long that John Lane, myself, and yourself are on regarding the railroad permitting process. So could you just give me a slight bit more detail as to some of the things that we've pared down? Because part of that project has a high barrier to entry, much higher than point repair, although I recognize that might have a more significant immediate impact. So if you could just maybe fill up that information a little
So
more.
the Florida Walk is the one you're talking about with the railroad over it. So right now we have 3 culverts, 3 72-inch culverts. The original project called to clean those 3 out and add 2 more 96-inch culverts. And let me tell you about the importance of that particular point. All of that railroad west, so all of Araby, all of Old Araby, all of St. Louis, all that area,
I
all
want to
that
be clear, when you're
drains.
saying the Florida Walk, you mean where the railroad crosses over the canal and under?
The railroad track.
Yeah, okay, so that's.
So all of that Araby drains into the Aycock Canal. The Aycock Canal goes all the way to the 40 Arpin, and it goes under the railroad track at that point. That's what they call the Florida Walk.
Yeah, and that's the pinch point in that drainage system.
Exactly. So that one is the highest priority, because without that being repaired, we can't get the water into the 40 Arpin. So, and what we wound up doing is it had one of the 72-inch lines was in poor condition, so we're gonna put one 96-inch line, and we're gonna reline the other 72, so we'll have 3 72s and one 96, and we were able to cut about $600,000 out of that project. And then we took $900,000 out of that project, and we took $600,000 in Old Araby Point repairs. So now the streets with repairs are going to be Angela, Mealy, and Friscoville. And there's some side streets that we had to take out for now because of the funding.
Well, primarily what we discovered was that I'm sure many residents of Araby and everybody who drives in and out of Paris, east and west on St. Bernard Highway and Judge Perez, can remember for a period of time, you would drive through a lake on really bad rainy days, right? But what we uncovered was the fact that the Angela and Mealy drainage system was not connected in. It was one 24-inch line that was draining the entirety of Angela and Mealy, which was not sufficient to say the least. So we did some interim gap management, and we were able to get some more connectivity in that line while we're waiting for this longer, larger project to take hold. And actually it was thought that Judge Perez was the pinch point in that canal, but it turns out that it was in fact that Florida Walk or the rail crossing that is the reduction in flow. So that doesn't require any additional requests of the railroad?
We already have the railroad permit in place. We've already had
That's
the
what I'm saying.
agreements.
So we don't have to go back through that
All
process.
that's in place.
And it will remain in place in spite of the changes?
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mr. Logue. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Mr. McCloskey. Ms. Cusimano.
Mr. Loga, good afternoon. I know this isn't one of our capital projects, but I'm sure you're familiar with it. Is Atmos finished on Angela, putting in the new smart meters and digging up the street?
I would have to follow up with those guys, but I don't know. But I'll follow up with those and get you an answer.
Okay, so because I know there were points where you said you didn't want them to fill the holes because they're coming along with the water lines right behind them? Sewer lines?
No, the point repairs is a drainage project, but we
Okay.
also have some sewer problems in there.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is combine the sewer repair and the drainage repair at the same time, so we wouldn't wind up tearing up Angela twice. So that's why, that's the two we combined. Atmos is doing their own project on their own. That's totally
Okay.
separate from us.
Okay, because they're laying concrete tomorrow, but that must be
Yeah.
just for the Atmos
Correct.
portion of it. Okay, good. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Wait, one
Cusimano.
more thing.
Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
The 40 Arpin Trail, when the signage goes up, will they have signage that says no motorized vehicles?
Yes,
I'm
that should be
already getting
going up, that
complaints
should be
from
going up
people.
this week. We ordered the signs a couple weeks ago, and I know they're about ready to come in.
Okay, because there's some kids riding
There's
dirt
all
bikes
kind of
and
stuff going on that trail, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cusimano. Mr. Randall.
Thank you, Chairman. Two questions for you. And don't mean to put you on the spot with it, but what would you say was the holdup on the Dubuchel project?
The Dubuchel project, we're seeking grant funding for that one, so we didn't have the funding for that one. So Dubuchel and Patricia Street Conspans, those two are we're putting those two together to get the grant. It has to be a certain minimum threshold to qualify.
And in the completed list project, you have the Francis Place Park. There has been, in the last 2 weeks, a number of concerns that have arisen there. Signage on it says that there's supposed to be swings. There's no swings at the park. There's no place for a resident or a parent to sit. There's no garbage cans. And the number one concern that I got probably at least 20 times so far is on a very busy intersection, and there is nothing preventing a kid from just running straight into the street from it. Is there a way that we can revisit that park?
Yeah, well, I'll have to get with the administration and revisit that one.
Okay.
That one's one I'm not trying to pat, but I just wasn't involved with the design or layout of that one, but.
It has been a subject of contention over the last couple weeks. Thank you.
All right, anybody else in the queue? I got a couple questions, Mr. Logan. The Lake Larry project, are we still on with that same project? Because I thought we was, the contractor pulled out.
No, but contractually, they're still tied to the project. There was 2 change orders that were executed because of the impact of Hurricane Ida, to set them back. We executed those 2 change orders to make them back whole, and then they had some better, the reality is they had better profitability on other projects, so that's why they kind of left our project, but it doesn't negate the agreement that's in place. And so now I'm trying to get them back to mobilize and get a schedule when they're coming back. If they refuse, we'll go down the same route as claiming a performance bond that we have in place with them too.
Okay, so y'all it's still on.
They're still on the hook.
Yeah, cool. Let me ask you this, the Riverbend Oxidation Pond, man, we've been getting some bad smells around it. This project right here that's on the sheet, that's gonna alleviate some of that
Yes.
smell?
That's gonna get that going straight to the plant. The biggest thing right now we're working through is getting where the line and getting permission and right-of-ways to get the line from Riverbend to the Munster plant.
Okay, so it's nothing to do with the pump, the oxidation pump or nothing, this is just the piping to get to the pond?
Correct.
Correct.
There is some pump and there's some backup generators involved with this project too. So, but as far as the operation of it today, I'd have to look into that for you.
Gotcha. All right, Mr. Logan, thank you as always for coming and giving us this update.
No problem.
Anybody else?
Thank you for your time.
All right, moving right along. Where we at, Mr. Chair? Madam. Item number 5, motion to recognize Sam Steins, Steve Palavich, and Brandon Duplessis with the VDCI for the mosquito update. Councilman Moniz. And no objection? You have the floor.
I'm Steve Pavlovich. I'm the entomologist with VDCI, formerly Mosquito Control Services. I'm going to give a brief update. I guess Councilman Moniz had requested a update on mosquito control. Since there's quite a few new council people, we decided to give just an overview of our services. Sam will jump into, he's our chief biologist, some of the details of the St. Bernard program, and then any questions locally. We have our local Shalmation, Brandon Duplass, that is the local manager here. Basically, we started as Mosquito Control Services in Jefferson Parish in 1985, combined with VDCI and rebranded about 5 years ago. And we're operating now in 24 states. We have more than 30 years experience from that time period and have a lot of resources. We run roughly 352 adult siding trucks, so those little spray trucks that you see going around, and have 12 aircraft at our disposal that we use here in Louisiana and throughout mainly the Gulf South, but some other areas of the country too. And as mentioned earlier, I'm an entomologist, Sam's a biologist, and most of our programs are run by science and teams of entomologists and biologists. The first phase of our program is surveillance. We base all of our activities off of some type of surveillance, and taking data from traps, from assays, and then using that data to define what we're going to do in other programs. And here's a list just basically of what our integrated mosquito management program is. It starts with surveillance. It goes into larval control, which is controlling the immature mosquitoes. We then do adult control, which is what people are most familiar with, the trucks and the airplanes. We do disease and efficacy testing. We have a community outreach component, and then emergency response should there be a hurricane or disease outbreak. So we'll go through these each individually. Surveillance is what we base the program on. We use a variety of different traps. Here in St. Bernard, we're doing it 4 to 5 days a week. We're looking for both disease-carrying mosquitoes and the general mosquito population. And as you see on the tools thing, those are a variety of some of the traps in the pictures here. But we're using 4 to 5 traps, as well as doing something called dipping, which is actually going out in the ditches and seeing where those mosquito larvae are. We identify the mosquitoes down taxonomically to the type of species. People often think that mosquitoes are mosquitoes. We have 67 different varieties of mosquitoes here in southern Louisiana. And so we can determine some of these mosquitoes we don't care about because they feed only on reptiles or frogs or something like that. And others are of concern because they're pestiferous, especially, down the bayou as we get to Delacroix and lower areas down there where we've got the salt marsh mosquitoes that are very aggressive biters. And then some are concerned for West Nile transmission and other diseases. So mosquito breeding, once we've found mosquito breeding in an area, we use a variety of different bacterial products and growth regulating hormones, as well as mosquito fish. So most of these items have very low impact on the environment. We can put the bacterial products out. It's naturally occurring soil bacterium. Your dog could come after that application, drink out of the water, and it's very specific to mosquitoes and other similar invertebrates such as midges. So there's very low impact. We also use a native mosquito fish called gambusia that is local here as well, and we relocate them throughout the area. And then we use a couple of different growth regulating hormones that stop the mosquito in the immature stage from becoming that adult. So they'll stay in the larval form, and then they can only stay there so long, and eventually they will die in the larval form and not become adults, so they really aren't a problem at that point. Adult control is what people are most familiar with, and of course this is the trucks that go out. Sam will get into how often and how that's done, but they're computer controlled. The droplets are tested routinely. The computer actually will adjust the amount of spray coming out of the back of the truck depending on the speed of the truck. So anywhere between 2 and 18 miles an hour, I think, is the max we set them at here in St. Bernard. So if the truck is driving between that speed range, it automatically adjusts the droplets, the amount of pressure coming out of the back of the unit, as well as the amount of chemical coming out of the back of the unit, so that it's making the proper application. And then as mosquito populations get higher, we do have the ability to use aircraft here, and we do that 4 or 5 times during the year. And it's a very effective way of covering larger areas and suppressing mosquito populations when they get higher, especially in the lower bayou regions. We also do disease testing. We collect samples each week. Those samples are then sent to the LSU Animal Disease Diagnostic Laboratory, and they are tested for several different encephalitis diseases, such as West Nile, Eastern equine encephalitis, and St. Louis encephalitis, which are the most common diseases we have here. We then, every Friday, will get a report back from LSU as to whether we've got positives in that area. And we also do efficacy testing. And what this is to make sure that the products that we're using are working. We rotate through several different products that are used in the back of the trucks, as well as in other phases of our program, to make sure that we're throwing different pitches at them, that the mosquitoes are not building tolerance over time. And so that bottle thing that you see there in the front is a bottle bioassay. Basically what we're doing is taking those insecticides, diluting them with acetone, and coating the inside of bottles. 15 mosquitoes to 20 mosquitoes are then introduced to those bottles, and we graph the amount of mortality of those mosquitoes over time so that we can see how the mosquito insecticides are working, and then consider the use of a different product if some things start to not be as effective as they once were. Public education is one of the components. We'll give presentations on request, but also one of the things that our inspectors, as well as the managers, and really anybody that encounters the public, will go out and they'll give out flyers, pamphlets. If we do have encephalitis in the area, we'll put door hangers on notifying residents of encephalitis in the area, and that we typically will do a response protocol. If encephalitis is found, we'll spray 3 consecutive nights with a couple of different products, and then we'll treat any suspected breeding site with a prophylactic treatment so that we preclude any additional breeding, and then follow that up with additional testing until we see both that the numbers of vector mosquitoes are lower, but then also we don't have any future or continued positives in the area before we go back to our routine applications. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about, and then Sam will talk about just some of the general things here, and we can answer any questions you may have, is we do have the ability to respond to emergencies, and we have here in St. Bernard, as well as the Louisiana Gulf parishes, that after a hurricane, and this is a picture of the fleets, as well as us bringing in some additional vehicles that are spray vehicles and equipment when we had a need post-hurricane. We have a lot of extra resources due to the combination 5 years ago, so we can bring in people from all over the country to support our local efforts that we're doing to respond to hurricanes and disease outbreaks. And I will let you.
Yeah, my name is Sam Steins. Thank you for this opportunity to talk. Just wanted to give a recap of last year and then talk about some of the objectives that we're running out right now. 2023 was a year that was dictated by weather. We had some unique weather situations that started out with a drought, and that drought carried us through August. And we don't see a lot of the nuisance mosquitoes, the heavy biters, during those times, but it causes us to have a lot of concern because it's a lot of the mosquitoes that can breed West Nile or carry West Nile and transmit it are usually more evident during that time. And the reason for this is birds are actually bringing the West Nile into the area. And during times of drought, you have less water resources. And the particular mosquito that likes to carry or transmit West Nile loves some of that septic water, that water that's starting to foam, starting to become horrible. And so the birds and the mosquitoes are using the same water resource. And so that often will amplify the virus because they're using the same water resource. So we saw that in Louisiana. Louisiana had a tough year last year for West Nile. Not so much in St. Bernard and in the metro area, but if you go above I-10 into the western part of the state, they had 54 human positives, and I think over 750 mosquitoes samples that tested positive. We submitted 250 samples from St. Bernard Parish, and only one of them came back positive for West Nile virus. And then we initiated our response protocol where we spray several nights. We alerted the public as well as treated any kind of immature mosquitoes that we could find. Then we retested and we found no evidence of West Nile, and that was our only situation this year. The season last year ended up a really aggressive season for mosquitoes, which extended our spraying to late. We did a lot of our truck spraying. We sprayed over 6,000 miles last year, most of it occurring in the last 3 months of the year. We had a lot of that tidal influence. We had a little bit of rain, but it produced a freshwater swamp marshy mosquito that came in heavy numbers, especially down the bayou. So we did more work, season extended, and we actually sprayed a lot more than what the contract requires, an additional third. Objectives that we have going on right now is we're remapping. We have a team that's going mainly down the bayou, getting permission to utilize long driveways. People that have a lot of property, we're getting their permission to drive through their properties. We're doing levees. We're getting keys to access a lot of roads that we were unable to access in the past. We have to figure out how to penetrate some of these areas down the bayou to provide them more support. So we have teams doing that right now. We're also locating bees. Some of the beehives have moved out of the area, but we have a lot that moved back in. So we're locating those, marking them, and then our tablets will allow us to not spray those automatically. So we've taken the ability or the error from the driver, and the ULV will actually turn off as they pass around these beehives. So we're marking those and making sure that those are safe. We also have our administrator reaching out to schools, recreation areas, Los Lenos property, just kind of shaking hands before the year starts and getting ready for all the activities, the baseball seasons, all those kind of things, and finding that out. But so we're actively ready to start this year.
I got a question for you. The swamp mosquitoes you're talking, the saltwater mosquitoes, what
Yep.
you call them, they're very aggressive, and they come out for around 5 o'clock, and then they go back in a couple hours later. Are y'all being proactive in trying to find a solution to keep them at bay and keep them to where, I know is it the same chemical that y'all use for the other species, or what?
We actually rotate different chemicals through. The chemical that we use, at the rate we use, works. Our biologist has done the test and shown that. But certain mosquitoes, we have to go out during the activity time. So Brandon's doing the surveillance to find out where those are coming out, at what time, and then we'll actively target those. But, yep.
The last time you was here, you said that they had a new species come that lives in the mud, because we had the drought and we still was getting the mosquitoes was coming out, and about the same amount of time, the same time periods. That's the same saltwater species you was talking about?
They don't come from the mud. Midge flies can actually come from the mud, but they come from kind of water resources that, and what we saw is little pockets of water, of fresh water, where they're really coming from. And I think we had talked about some of the lily pads, some of those kind of things. Where those are at, we have a certain mosquito that will actually attach underneath those lily pads. And that Coquillettidia mosquito is very prevalent here. And that's a really aggressive mosquito that we're gonna see start to come out in about a month or a month and a half.
I want to let Ms. Moniz, I know she has questions, probably the same questions I have, cue into the, what you call, and let her ask the questions, and Mr. Lane has some, and I have some.
Oh, yeah, any questions?
You can finish with your presentation and we'll ask after.
I'm pretty much done. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I know yesterday I've been outside finally the past couple of days. I mean, I have horses and stuff, and we were
Yes.
riding yesterday, and I'm not gonna lie, they were really bad. So I don't know, how do you test down the road? I've seen on your report that we get every week that there's one area on Bayou Road that you test? Is that how y'all?
Oh, so we have different types of
Traps?
traps. Yep. And so during our populations, we have something called a New Jersey light trap. And it just attracts a lot of those nuisance mosquitoes. And so we have those in standard locations throughout the parish. But when it comes to testing for encephalitis, we move those traps all around. And I can tell you that we do a lot of work at the horse barn. One of the, behind the fish sack, we really did a lot of effort there toward the end of the year last year, and we plan to put a lot. Oh, yeah, and we also do landing rates where we go out and as we're running these traps, we'll go into the woods or we'll walk into a field and have those mosquitoes land on us.
You want to welcome to come to my house.
Yep.
I have a long driveway, and I know y'all came down my long driveway. I've seen y'all. That was last year. But this year, I don't know, how often do y'all spray?
We've been battling the weather, but we are starting to really get going this week, as well as the following weeks. We're going to be in full force. So we're going to be out, and the trouble is we had such a small pocket of spraying. The mosquitoes will lay down if you get below 55, 50 degrees. And so we had that small time of spraying. But now as it gets warmer, we're going to be able to stay out longer and do more treatments with the trucks.
So y'all going to be starting back soon to start spraying?
Oh yeah, we've sprayed a few times before today, and then we're out there tonight, and yeah, we're out on the road.
And what time do y'all normally spray? Because that's another big
It's
situation.
usually dusk and then 2 to 3 hours after dusk. As far as to answer there's no schedule in place. So it's not like Tuesday, like garbage collection or something, and that it's based on the surveillance. That being said, all the areas of the parish are getting treated on a routine basis. It's just the ones that are getting prioritized first are the ones that have the higher populations, and then it's, basically cycling through the remainders. So if they go out and they find high trap populations, or if the landing rates is where they've gone out and done that, then those will direct them to hit the highest populations first in priority. But every area is getting routinely treated, but it's guided by the surveillance. So it's not just because it's Tuesday that, the poitras or something's going to get treated.
And one thing I'd like to add is just You can call us, as well as the website has a link to our website where they can put in a service request on our website. And we recommend that people do that. And if you do have a long driveway or you have a big piece of property that you would like us to check out and that we can possibly treat on a regular basis, then we would welcome that you do that. And there is a place to do that on our website as you're filling out a service request. That's something that we really wanted to do, that we did toward the end of the year last year, is just going down these long driveways and really helping people out. It's so hard to get into that swamp to do the work that we need to do. So.
Okay. And one more question. How many trucks run at a time, like when y'all spray in the area?
We've had as many as 6. Typically, it's 3 or 4 that are spraying. We we have the 14 zones, and we can typically do a zone and a half. Some we can do 2 zones by truck a night in the peak of the summer. But yeah, 3 or 4. And we are hiring right now. We have 2 great drivers, but we are looking for more drivers to come in and help us out.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Lane?
Yeah, well, Sam, you kind of covered it right at the end there, but I just wanted to thank you guys, Brandon, Sam, and Steve. And I want everyone to know if there's any issues or anything that's kind of coming up in the community where you feel it may need some spraying, it's just a phone call away. Call us if they come out there. I know when we had the issue with the horse track, it might have been 7 or 8 o'clock at night, gave you a call and I was out there that night. And then I just wanted to mention that their link is on our website. So if you need any more additional information on mosquitoes, it's on there. There's blogs. And if there's any other issues, you can contact them directly. It's on our website.
Yeah, and like as the horse track, that's now part of our regular basis. So every time we spray that area, the horse track is going to be sprayed also. And
That's why I was just getting ready to ask you the question, if y'all put that on as your regular route,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean, where you can go back there and catch it.
And we did find a lot of septic at the horse track, actually right in the area where they keep the horses. And that's the West Nile mosquito that's breeding in that area. So we have to go there weekly. It takes about a week to go from an egg to an adult. So as long as we're spraying the larvicide in that location once a week, we're in good shape. So
One more thing, is there any way that y'all can look into, I don't know, all of y'all trucks and wherever parishes y'all work have the same little nozzle and little pumps on the back of them trucks? Because we used to have a big pump with a big nozzle, and when that truck passed, you had to run for the hills. But now, when y'all pass, I mean, it's like a little puff of smoke coming out the back of it. Is there any way you can upgrade them pumps to fit our layout of our land or our parish?
There are, so it's a little different technology now. It's ultra low volume that uses a smaller amount. It's concentrated insecticide, but the amount of oil carrier is less. And there's really only 2 providers of either London Fog or the Clark Grizzly are the only 2 major heavy-duty, what they call ULVs, ultra-low volume sprayers, and they're very effective. It doesn't look like they're putting out that much, but it's a concentrated insecticide. And it's meant to break into small droplets to then flow through the area. So increasing the volume isn't the most effective way. It's about the concentration of those droplets.
I was always thought the more you spray, the more you kill. I mean, it's more effective anyway.
Well, you can only go to a certain level of the product per acre, and you can't go above that. So you'd have to, if you added more oil, for example, you would have more spray out there, but it would be a diluted spray.
I got you.
And I do remember that we called it the 6-headed dragon. There was actually more than 1 nozzle on the top of it, but yeah.
Mr. Randall.
One very generic question. Sometimes they're called water nymphs or blind mosquitoes. Is this product taking care of those as well? Or is that something different?
So midge flies, or I guess blind mosquitoes or gnats, what we spray at night may knock them down, but they're hard to kill. They come out in just these extreme numbers. We wish we can take care of gnats. I actually think gnats are worse than mosquitoes a lot of times when you're in some of these bayou areas. But if it comes in contact with them, it will kill them. Our BTI that we spray in ditches will kill midge flies, but unfortunately, gnats are very difficult. We do spray a barrier. One thing that we do, that we provide, like for the middle school down the bayou and for There was a picture of us spraying on the levees near the horse barn to try to protect them more. It's a barrier treatment, and so if once it dries, it's safe for humans, but once a mosquito lands on it, then they can pass away. And so we'll do that around the horse place because there's a lot of flies, and down the bayou, and large events like Los Lenos festivals and those kind of things. And so if gnats do land on that area, they will pass away also. So if there's a large event, please let us know. Even if it's a wedding or something like that, please let us know a week in advance so that we can prepare for it and get someone out there to do some treatments.
Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Randall. Ms. Myers. Ms. Myers.
My apologies if you mentioned this and I missed it, but how often do you test?
For virus or
Just general testing to make sure that there's not anything?
You're talking about for disease?
Disease testing?
Yeah, disease testing is done every week.
Okay.
So it's all year round, we'll disease test. And then we'll do general mosquito population levels 4 to 5 times a week.
Yeah.
Okay, and how long does it take for the test to be completed, and what is the turnaround time?
So we'll collect the samples the traps go out on Monday, they're picked up on Tuesday, they go to LSU on Wednesday, and Friday, usually by midday, we've got those results.
And at that point, you're able to, I guess my concern would be if there is something, right, we want to be able to mitigate it as quickly as possible. So that's why I was wondering what the turnaround time was and then how
So
often
it's
tested.
basically 2 days, and they do everybody in the state that same period.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate it's on Friday. It's hard to get everything organized before the weekend, but yeah.
And typically what happens then is they'll treat that Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, they'll do it ends up being weekend stuff.
Okay, and I thank you again for your presentation. It was very informative.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ms. Meyer and Mr. McCloskey.
Thank you, Council Chair. You gentlemen aren't in the business of testing dead birds, are you?
No, so back when West Nile first arrived, they were testing birds, the corvids rather, sorry, not COVID, and as well as some of the raptors and so forth, because West Nile at the time had a very immature bird population that was naive to that virus, and it killed a lot of the birds. Since then, the local bird populations are really not affected by it, and the mortality is really low in those, and so the state has stopped testing birds.
Yeah, I was actually asking that question kind of tongue-in-cheek. I didn't actually think that was going to be the case, but that was the answer that we got. So I have a resident that it's a really strange situation. She's had like 7 birds die on the same exact spot, which is just abnormal, right? We actually had Energy go out and check to see if it was a power line issue, and we went through basic protocol. But you guys have been very accommodating in the past if we ask you to particularly trap an area and test it. So I guess would this be a scenario where we could maybe potentially look at testing the mosquito because the state doesn't test the bird?
We can certainly do that. If you want to get us the address, we can certainly put out, during our weekly trap, we can put an extra trap out there, send those traps off to LSU. They still won't test the bird, but we can test the local mosquitoes.
I didn't even think of it until this moment. This potentially may be a workaround to just alleviate the residents' concern.
We can inspect the yard and maybe the neighbor's yard, just to, if there's a pool that's breeding or if there's a drain or something, we can take a look and maybe put her at ease with that also.
I may take you up on that.
7 or 8 birds in an area, very unlikely that West Nile would have hit all those birds in the same area. But.
Right. It certainly feels like a localized event, but I'm just trying to, if there's an opportunity to alleviate that particular concern, she has young kids, so, me telling her as the councilman that that's likely not the case is not a sufficient rebuttal,
Sure.
So.
And that's another way that residents can, if they have a concern about their neighbor, we can go anonymously to the neighbor if they have a pool that's unkept, and we keep a container full of the Gambusia. We keep them alive, we keep them going. So we can introduce those Gambusia into that pool for long-term control. And we do it for the parish. The parish often calls us about pools that aren't being kept. And they get us access to the house, and we go put something in the pool to keep it while they're repairing or whatever. So.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. McCloskey. Mr. John Wayne.
Gillis, I think, Steve, I think you provided a letter with the West Nile for that resident at one point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
And then my question for you guys are, we've got some bike paths that are now behind the 40 ARPA and as well as on the Mississippi River. Are there any plans to maybe spray that with four-wheelers, or anything's been developed yet, or how are we gonna treat those areas?
Yeah, I'm so happy that you paved the 40 ARP, and we used that a lot last year. That was, we incorporated that. We had trucks just going out to do that, especially toward the end of the year when we had a lot of complaints about what was going on at the park. We saw a lot of mosquitoes coming out of that swamp area. So yeah, absolutely. And we've gotten some keys just recently of areas down further from other people that own property that are gonna allow us to utilize the property to spray that it connects to.
So I heard in the previous conversation that there were going to be some signs that were going up on some of those paved things of no motorized vehicles. Is there a loop around for us then? Okay.
I seen that you had a slide on here with the four-wheelers with the spray.
Absolutely.
I never seen one of them before. Is that that's not for our parish? You don't?
No, that's in your parish. That's
Oh,
Alexandra, one of the inspectors.
I haven't seen one, but I mean, that's.
Yep. Yep.
Call who? Robin? All right.
We love to use them.
Robin who?
Everyone loves to use them, so yeah, if you.
Robbie Campo? Oh, you got his way, he hunts out, he goes around there? No, but Mr. Lane just said, it's perfect if you can put them four-wheelers on that bike path.
Yeah.
And not run them pickup trucks on it. That would be great.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Ms. Moniz?
I just want to thank y'all just for coming out and giving us a brief update. Just like you said, a lot of us are new up here, and it really helped me understand this report that we're getting every week.
Good.
So
Good.
just thank you, and I want to get you my business card because I definitely want to get with you about going down.
And I have my card also for everybody, and whenever there's a problem, just give me a call. It can be at night or whatever, and we'll jump on it as quickly as possible. Oftentimes, unfortunately, I'm too involved with the trucks at night, so my boss says, but I can often get things taken care of pretty quickly, so.
No, thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Moniz. Ms. Cusimano?
Thank you. You were talking about the horse track, and that there's some areas where there's water that y'all found mosquitoes with encephalitis.
We didn't find encephalitis, but we found the mosquitoes that can potentially carry it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you notify the owner of that property about the water that's sitting, the stagnant water?
You know,
Or is that for us to do?
we talked to, it's actually on the property where
Right.
the horses are. We talked to some of the people on the property. I don't know what they can do. The water seems to drain to the horse track from the front of the street. And so I'm not quite sure what could be done. It's very septic. I think a lot of times when you have dogs, like dog pens, and you have horses, some of that feces will mix with water. It'll have to go somewhere. And I think this is one of the locations that it's going to. And unfortunately, that's the perfect conditions for it. So we're treating it. We're proactive with it. And the road next to it, one of those pictures was Alexandra on that road right next to that fish shack. That's another area where it's just completely septic. And that's some affluent that's draining from some of those properties into that ditch. But yeah, I can definitely work with Mr. Lane and let him know where those are. Maybe there is something that can be done.
Well, the people that have horses there probably would like to know that those mosquitoes are there.
Actually, we talk to a lot of them there. They see us there, so a lot of them know what we're doing, and we're trapping there also. But yeah.
And the thing with the water lilies, thank you for that information. I have someone who's concerned about the health of water lilies, and what you're telling me is we don't want them. So.
Well, I know Mr. Everhart.
Yeah, I mean, I know that they clog up the rakes and stuff.
Herbicide potentially.
Yeah.
It's a pretty aggressive mosquito. We see a lot of them in this area. Unfortunately, some of that area is with the Army Corps of Engineers, so it's kind of a tug of war as to what you're allowed to do or what you're allowed to spray. But we do have capabilities of herbicide in water environments. So we can do that for you.
Thank you.
All right. It's keeping St. Bernard mosquito free is probably will never happen because of where we live at, and we live around basically a freshwater estuary now, saltwater on the north side, but water lilies and water hydrants, all aqua vegetation breeds mosquitoes, through the root system, and it's hard to keep up with that. I'd like to maybe this year it might be a little less because we have a lot of lilies die because of the drought and the salt water came in.
Yeah.
And we witnessed islands and the islands lilies come out, and they just basically died and went to the bottom. But hopefully we have a better year this year anyway. Make it a little bit easier for y'all. As long as y'all being proactive and flying the planes now and spraying, keeping up with it, you know, you got a plan. Let's see what this plan brings in next year. Thank y'all for coming out. We got any more? Mr. Jones, Mr. President.
That area they're talking about behind the horse track, that's in Porter's down there. There's two drainage ditches, one on the west side and one on the east side. The one on the west side is in that trailer park, and it follows that fence line all the way back to the Green Avenue Canal. So there's a major drainage canal right behind that horse track. And on the east side of that, there's a ditch right on the side of the horse barn that runs from the horse barn all the way back into the Green Avenue Canal. So they do have some proper drainage around that way. I think what they need right now is just a little better on the grade elevations going to the back, and it would probably get the majority of that water out of there.
So you're saying,
we're going to pay a site visit on that next week.
so you're saying now we get a right of entry, we're gonna go out there because it's a community drain ditch?
No, I'm not saying it. What I'm saying is we're going to go out there and give them some ideas to give them a little bit of help on private property on how to get that water back to the Green Avenue Canal.
Well, the ditch that you're talking about on the east side, that runs along the trailer park that goes to the Green Street.
That's the west side, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right, the west side. That one there's a community drain ditch.
Yes, we actually, back in the police jury days, we used to maintain that ditch. This new form of government, I don't think we ever been in on that ditch. But the one that runs alongside the horse barn, I think they have their own equipment that they can take care of that. We just got to go give them a little elevation shot and help them out a little bit.
We'll get with them and we'll see what they can do, if they can do that, if they have any equipment left. If not, it's actually pertaining to the health, safety, and well-being of the whole, everybody around that area. We can, that gives us the right to go in there and try and help alleviate the problem so we don't have all that West Nile break or outbreak or whatever. But
We're all on board with that, all on board.
Okay, all right. Thank y'all for coming out. Anybody else in the queue? No. So, thank y'all for coming out.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Moving along is Mr. Easy. Okay, motion to recognize Bruce Labrum with the Home Builders Association of Greater New Orleans. Mr. Labrum, any no objections? Mr. Moran, you want? He's on? Okay, he's on.
Good evening.
No, Josh. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Council Chair. And Mr. Layburn, correct?
Yes.
Thank you for being here. As you know, we contacted Dan Mills with the HBA, with the Home Builders Association, in response to us adopting this roof ordinance that Mr. McCluskey brought to us. I think it's great for St. Bernard, but for you being here today, it's vital for us and for the public to understand why this is important for us to adopt, right? I mean, with the increased insurance costs across the region, and especially us being a coastal parish, y'all adopted a resolution that pretty much lays out everything that you want parishes to do to, consistently have good building practices and make sure that we're being adequately looked at for insurance rates. So anything you could give information for us would be great. And then on top of that, I don't think I asked Dan about this, but while you're discussing this, could you give us a little bit of information about the assessment that the homeowner can get? I think he called it an independent assessment that a homeowner can get to have his insurance rates reduced?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
A little bit of history real short, and y'all stop me at any time, ask questions. You're going to have to stop me because I talk a lot. But I do know some things. I've been through this for about 2.5 years. 2 years ago, we, the Home Builders Association, first became aware that there was a tidal wave coming for Louisiana that would crush homeowners and endanger actual ownership. So
We'll push his mic further.
So what we did, is this better?
Yeah, it's better.
So what we did basically 2 years ago, we formed what we called a task force for insurance. There were 40 or 50 people by the time this thing got rolling that would come to the meetings every month, all kinds of folks, different walks of life, insurance agents, roofing contractors, governmental officials, code specialists. We basically asked the question of how can we help? That's what we wanted to know. How can we as contractors and builders help this? And it took us a year, a lot of research, a lot of conversation to come up with a motion that we made from that task force to the greater board. The board of the Home Builders Association is something like you all, except we're not a government. You all are. We came up with a unanimous vote that is basically we wrote this resolution that you've all been sent. It does lay it out. You're correct, sir. I appreciate that very much. We were guided in this effort. Don't think that we dreamed this up by ourselves. It was a year's effort with a lot of input. We had a president of one of the biggest privately owned insurance carriers in the state of Louisiana come in and actually talk to us. We asked him the same question, what can we do to help? So all of this went in, and we were guided by a local code official who told us, look, we want to help, the code official saying this, we want to help you guys do this too, but we have some issues. We have to have help to get this done. So we're willing to do this. In the parish president's office in Jefferson Parish, she joined in. She's very enthusiastic about doing anything she can to help the homeowners. In that case, it was Jefferson Parish. But we need help. So I asked him, what help do you need? He told me, and we then asked the legislature in regular session last year to adopt some amendments, and they did, and that's part of our resolution as well. That's been accomplished now. So without that change, I brought a copy of that. You all probably have that already in what Dan has sent you, but that allows submission of geotagged photographs into the public record. It allows that to be done by the code authorities because no one wants to get a code inspector up on the roof. It's dangerous. But yet we have to document and prove that that roofing work is done to code. So proof needed this change of the law. And that law was changed by special exception so that now these photographic documents, not just photographs of the work, but also other digital documents like spec sheets on the shingles, for example, all of that can be uploaded. That's no longer not permitted. In fact, specifically is permitted in Louisiana law now. And then we encountered the question of, okay, what kind of documents are needed? This is the question asked of us by code officials. So we work together. It's a very close partnership. We invite St. Bernard, Plaquemines, Orleans, anybody who wants to come to our meetings, please do. We partner up. We understand this is a big ask because before this was done, it was the price wins. Every time when a homeowner is choosing to put a new roof on, what do? Go get bids, and usually they choose the cheapest price. This is true everywhere, but that's not always the right way to do it. And in fact, today in Louisiana, it's against the law if that re-roof is not done to the present code. And Louisiana has a statewide mandated by law uniform construction code that's the highest, most resilient code across the Gulf South. It's the IRC 2021 International Residential Code. That requires that of a licensed contractor. There's also unlicensed contractors. But enforcement to make sure that the roofs are being done to the code, that's up to the local jurisdictions. So that's what you all are considering doing. Let me back up a minute and say Marcus Campo himself personally wanted to be here. He went through an accident. He's going in medical recovery right now. I wanted to say he would be here talking. I'd be just kind of sitting on the side listening and helping if he had questions. But he just could not be here. So I'm very glad to be here because I'm very, very passionate about it. You can't tell from looking, but I've been doing this for 50 years. I've built thousands of homes in South Louisiana. I know the people I've built the houses for, and they need help. So this is what motivates me, and this is what motivates the HBA, and I believe this is what motivates the legislature to do what they have done. If you decide to vote and pass this thing, really hope you do, it's the right thing to do, then you're moving this parish forward in a big way. Without this, then it's still true that the roofers can come in, and if they're not watched, they can put roofs on that do not meet the code. The current code requires a secondary roof barrier against leaks. That was never present in the past codes, the 2018, 2015, and going backwards. The codes are done every 3 years. Louisiana skipped one iteration of the code because the governor at that time didn't feel we were able to deal with it. So we skipped forward to 2021. The current code today, for the first time in history, requires a secondary barrier against leaks mandated by the code. There's many ways you can do it, but 3 ways. But if you don't do that and the shingles come off, then what happens is water gets in, sheetrock collapses, and it destroys everything in the house. I think the statistic given to us by the insurance carriers was something like 80% of the billions of dollars with a B, billions of dollars that were lost in the 3 hurricanes, 2021, 22, were caused by shingles coming off, not the house blowing down, not the house blowing away, but just roof leaks. Simple, preventable, if it's done correctly, roof leaks. And the insurance carriers are saying, we got no proof that y'all did any in the past. In Louisiana, we have no proof, no data, nothing that shows that you were doing these roofs correctly. What we do have is proof positive that we've lost our butts here, selling insurance, repairing houses after roof leaks. So part of what we're trying to do here is build a public record through permitting for the future that will lead Louisiana out of this terrible position we're in. We asked as contractors, what can we do? This is what we were told to do.
How many other parishes joined?
Jefferson is doing it presently. They're the biggest so far. Orleans has agreed to do it. They told us starting maybe June of last year that they would do it as of the first of the year. There have been some permits issued in Orleans. They don't have their ordinance in place yet, but re-roofing permits are being issued when requested in Orleans Parish. Dan Mills' house, he's our executive officer. His personal home, he got a permit to do the re-roofing in Orleans Parish. So Jefferson's the biggest. St. Charles was out in front. They did it even before we could get it done in Jefferson. They move a lot faster in St. Charles, and I don't want to offend anybody. I love St. Charles Parish and St. John, St. James. I love St. Bernard. I'm from a small town up in North Louisiana, and I think of this as home, the way y'all do things. Jefferson and Orleans, I love them too, but they're huge and difficult to deal with sometimes because of the tugging forces that go on in anything you do. But I appreciate what y'all are considering. I know it's the right thing to do. You also probably know this, but if not, I want to hit it. Maybe folks in the audience don't know this. Louisiana legislature also made it mandatory, and the governor, by the way, he had hundreds of bills, I'm talking about Edwards, had hundreds of bills sent to him, bills that he had to sign to make law, right? That's his action makes it law. After the legislature passes something, he has to sign it. He chose Act 1. This is the one I think is the most, I don't know him, he doesn't know me, but I think there's a reason he chose this one out of the hundreds he could have signed. The first one he did sign was the one that made it mandatory that if a homeowner does things to protect their house against wind damage, and roofs are one of those things, that they will be entitled by law to a discount from the admitted carriers that operate under the Louisiana Department of Insurance guidance and rules. They must give a discount. And you asked about wind mitigation, so let me get to that one. Wind mitigation is the first step. That's for everybody. What that is there's a class of license holding inspectors, really, 21 strong right now in Louisiana. 21 people are licensed by Louisiana Codes Council to conduct wind mitigation surveys. I've had one done on my house, my daughter's house, my father-in-law's house, a bunch of friends of mine. I've kept track of all the customers I've built and sold houses for the last 2 years. I've had it done on all of them. And that's very successful, and the cost of that wind mitigation survey runs $300, sometimes a little more, maybe as much as $400. The average savings for 18 properties that I track personally, including my own personal home, my daughter's home, my father-in-law's home, the average savings was $2,300 in premium. The leader of savings was a man's house who lives, it's a friend of mine, another board member at the HBA. His house is worth $1.7 million, and he saved over $7,000 for a wind mitigation survey that cost him $300. So all he had to do was call one of the license holders. We stand up for that too, and we're organizing a whole group of that right now in the HBA and trying to get that word out, because that really is the first step for the average homeowner. The people I've built houses for, they don't have sitting in their checkbook $25,000 or $35,000 to write in for a new roof. But they do have $300 for a wind mitigation survey. They don't even know who to call. And we're trying to get that word out. So I hope I answered your question.
No, that's perfect, Bruce, and I appreciate you giving all of that information. I think over the next couple months, we're going to try to develop some kind of incentive for our residents to go out and try to get one of these surveys done, anything to help them reduce their insurance rates. But thank you for being here and giving us all the information for our residents to be more informed of what we're trying to do.
And look, if you hit something once you pass, assuming you pass this, any other problems you have, call us, the HBA. Call Marcus, just call Dan. We're partnered up with you. We're here for the homeowners. That's why we're here. And I think, I know that's why y'all are here too, taking care of your people.
Mr. Bruce, hold on one second. Mr. McCluskey.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for being here. And I wanted to take a moment to thank the Home Builders Association for their hard work at the state level and with that panel that you assembled to bring guidance to this conversation, and the foresight that you had to do so as long ago as it needed to be to have a solution by the time people were starting to recognize the peril that they were going to be in as a result of the increase in homeowners insurance costs. With that said, you were very careful not to, and most importantly, I want to reiterate, we wouldn't even be here today had you not had the state law changed so that we could accept photos to do roofing permits, because it would not be feasible or possible for us to permit every roof in St. Bernard Parish. The home builders would not be able to sustain their builds, and I have two friends of mine in the audience today who are both home builders, and they cite the #1 reason for the slowdown in home building in St. Bernard Parish, which Arabi, Louisiana, was the second fastest growing suburb in the country up through 2021. They cite homeowners insurance and flood insurance as the reasons that we are not building at that pace any longer. Obviously, everybody's subject to the same interest rate increases across the country. However, insurance is seeming to take a particularly hard path at Southeast Louisiana as a whole, and particularly the coastal parishes. So if you could, just for a moment, you've been very careful not to mix the conversations about fortified roofs and state standards, but I can think of no better subject matter expert to explain the difference between what you had done legislatively at the state level to increase the state standard to be closer to what fortified roofs are. And maybe you could speak on the difference between a fortified roof and what we're doing here, because we're not requiring a fortified roof. We're just requiring roofing permits to the Louisiana state standard. Although we will on our application, on our permit, have a space that the parish recognized that a certified fortified roof was installed as a matter of documentation. So if you could just briefly for a second explain the difference between the fortified roof and the state standard, and not to guide your words, but as I understand it, it's a very small difference, and certainly smaller than it has been in the past. So I'll turn the floor to you.
Thank you. Yes, the code, the contributors to code are vast, and they're time-tested and honored. Firemen, policemen, lawyers, insurance companies are part of it, scientists, lots of engineers, architects. It's a very long, protracted process that is very careful. It serves, code serves, there's an answer for almost every question that comes up in construction in the code. You can find answers and solutions. Fortified is by the insurance companies alone. And I'm not against it. In fact, I'm building fortified in Alabama. Everything we do is fortified gold. Over here in Louisiana, everything I'm doing over here is fortified roof so far, not yet gold. I'm going to do it on my own house, my daughter's house, my father-in-law's house, fortified. I'm going to do that because there's this intention, I won't say promise because it's not manifested yet, that the fortified standard or certificate will earn a much bigger discount. Now, we haven't seen that yet in Louisiana. In Alabama, where it's an older program, no one at any price builds any new home in coastal Alabama unless it's fortified gold. I'll make this pretty easy. My partner's house, he's younger than me. He's in charge of our Alabama operations. He lives in Baldwin County. There's 2 coastal counties over there in Alabama. Over here in Louisiana, there's like 20-something along the coast. But he lives in Baldwin. His home, insured about the same value as my home, he pays $1,100 a year. I pay $11,000. That's some hard-hitting numbers. I mean, I don't like writing that check. I've only done it 1 year so far, but it's going to be renewed in the end of March next month. Probably going to write it again. I'm hoping it doesn't go up. Now, that's why I'm doing fortified roof in my own personal home. The difference between code and fortified is whisper close. It's whisper close. There's very little difference. Our code, Louisiana code, not Alabama's, not Florida, not Texas, not Louisiana code, requires that secondary barrier. If you do it any other way, you're breaking the law. If you're a licensed contractor, you're subject to the legal penalties of breaking the law, and you're opening yourself up to a giant lawsuit if those shingles ever tear off and you did not do that secondary barrier. So when our code changed in January of 22, when the legislature adopted mandatory the new code, it took a while with our organization to get, Jefferson was the first big organization. They have a council like y'all. They had to change their laws, their code, like y'all are considering doing. It took a while to get all that done. We had to change the legislature thing, and it took a while to become effective. August 5, I think, is when Jefferson made it effective, that they would have permits for the first time, review permits for re-roofing. I'm not sure that when it all gets said and done that we're going to see much difference. And now I'm talking in the future ways. I can't tell you how long, but I'm not sure we're going to see much difference. In quotes for insurance, difference between our code and fortified. We're talking about the type of nails, that's all, and the number. Code nailing pattern on a sheet of plywood is every 6 inches. And on fortified is every 4. In fortified, you have to use ring shank nails. Code does not require ring shank nails. That's basically, that's the major difference.
And I'm glad that you were able to clarify that. And to reiterate what you said, the difference between our code and a fortified roof is a whisper.
Yes, sir.
It's next to nothing, right? So while the insurance companies created the fortified roofing program and are now actively giving discounts, and we have fortunate to have an insurance agent who was able to get some information on this conversation today, so we're going to let her speak on that with an informed voice. Their program, they're already discounting for it, right? They haven't had the time to assess or the uptake from around the state to make a new risk assessment. Was it based on our state standard? Would that be a fair assessment in your opinion?
Yeah, the law that changed to make it mandatory also has language in it that I cannot explain to you. The Commissioner's Office, Louisiana Department of Insurance, Mr. Temple today in Louisiana, Mr. Donlin in the past. The Commissioner's Office has to assess for each individual carrier. The carrier submits their discount program under the law to comply with the law, but it includes the word actuarially, I can barely even say it. Can't spell it, don't ask me to spell it. Actuarially justifiable. And what that basically means is a carrier doing a certain amount of business in St. Bernard Parish, a certain percentage of its book of business, if it's here in St. Bernard Parish, and another percentage upstate somewhere, not in the high wind zones. They can't, they're not allowed to or expected to quote discounts so great that if a storm were to hit St. Bernard Parish, it would endanger them. So it's a variable. That's the only part I really do understand. It's a variable that's based upon how much exposure they have. So it's not going to always be uniform. That's my, I am not an insurance guy, I think you can tell that, but it's not set in the law how much the discount will be. It's defined by words, not numbers.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that information. Thank you for being here today, and I'm sure others have questions, so I'll yield the floor to them. Again, thank you for all the work that the Home Builders Association has done on our behalf, and we look forward to continuing down this path to improve the insurance situation in the state of Louisiana.
We can do it.
We can.
Ms. Meyer?
Thank you for your, the information. I have a question with regards to, we were talking about that whisper between the code and between the fortified. Could you explain and I know it is insurance carrier specific, but could you explain the differences with that with regards to the roof or the asphalt shingle type?
What code requires is you can only use a shingle that's wind rated in specific to the wind zone in which you're building. Fortified is the same on that.
Okay.
Fortified's different. We talked about the difference between code and fortified. Fortified also has actually four now because of Louisiana, 4 different ways that you can seal the roof deck. Before Louisiana, they only had 3, and code has 3 as well. There's also the Louisiana Fortified Homes Program grant program, of which my house, my daughter's house, my father-in-law's house, and a whole bunch of my friends, fortunately, are in that program. And that program is a slight tweaking of the fortified standard. And of the 3 ways of sealing the roof deck, that program only allows what I think of as the best. It's basically bulletproof or bubble-proof, I call it. It's the peel and stick, ice and water that completely seals the plywood. Costs a little bit more, but even if the shingles tear off, the roof doesn't leak. So I'm sorry, I've drifted off your question. Would you please repeat it? I want to answer your question.
No, you're fine. So maybe let me state this and then see if maybe you can shed some light on it. Well, first I do want to go back because I just want everyone to know a couple of things. One, I love this because we need to have some mitigation somewhere and have some responsibility as the homeowner and as parish. And also, I am all for this. I love this. However, I do also know that from a claims perspective, the roofs are a nightmare of a problem, and you were absolutely correct when you said that's one of the largest, it's the largest impact for the dollars that are spent from an insurance company's perspective when we have any sort of a claim. The other thing is, I also want from a baseline level, just customers to know that you can, if you just have a regular roof and you've had it replaced within a few years, most insurance companies, they don't really advertise this, but most insurance companies, there's a form that you'll sign and you'll get your contractor, your roofer to sign it, stating that your roof has been replaced. That is also does weigh in the algorithms and the discounts that you can get, just from a baseline simple perspective, which is not what we're discussing. I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. So the other thing is, from some insurance companies, it's my understanding that in order to get what they're all going to what they call a peril-based discount rating system. Are you familiar with that?
Barely, but yes.
Okay, that's fine. So when it comes to the impact-resistant roofs, some companies are still calling it a standard of fortified. Some are just calling it wind mitigation. So they're sort of very similar and all intertwined. So just know that it's not, because at first I thought it was different things. So with an impact-resistant roof, the way some of the insurance companies are doing it is you need to have a class 3 or 4 roof shingle by a certain manufacturer with a certain model. And you'll usually have to call your insurance company to find out which one is accepted by them. In addition to that, what that does is a few things. So, and then you have to have the inspection from that roof inspection, I think that you had also mentioned as well. So let's say your baseline premium is $2,000. We'll get into the discount part for you to keep it in its simplicity. So if you have a baseline premium of $2,000, let's just split it up in 3. The peril-based discount is in that you're going to have a percentage of discount if you have this. You'll have a percentage of discount for a class 3. Like, let's say it might be an average of 12% because of the actuary. It might be an average of 12%. And then if you have a class 4, it might be 14%. Okay, well, that's for wind. Then you have your hail. So that's 2 different ones. The very last one, which is the most expensive, is your hurricane. Now, your hurricane discount, which is built into your baseline premium, that is zone specific, specifically where we live, and the propensity of claims continuing to happen. You can have up to a 30% discount if you have these standards in place. Not necessarily just the code standards, but if it's, again, I would advise everyone to check with their individual insurance company because it does vary. It's insurance company specific based on state guidelines and standards, right?
Yep.
So I just want to encourage, I don't want to mislead anyone on any information at all, but I will say check with your insurance company, but you can, if you have a fortified roof, an impact-resistant roof, along with a class 3 or 4 shingles, in addition to the inspection, yes, that combined with a new construction home, because also remember that your premiums, in your premium base, it's also the age of your home. So if you have a new construction home with this, so when you were talking about Alabama having the $1,100 premium, I'm not saying we'd have an $1,100 premium, but we certainly would be far-fetched from the $11,000 premiums and the $7,000, $8,000 premiums that we're seeing now that used to be $1,100, right? Mm-hmm. And these mitigation efforts, it's just the spiral. So having the mitigation efforts in place and holding contractors and others more accountable and just raising the standard and the quality in which we do business is just going to help so much on that back end with claims, with getting insurance companies here, with not having 4 and 5 insurance companies leave the state every time that we have this major catastrophe. So there's a big, big picture here, even though this is a small step. So let's not negate those small steps. I appreciate your time. And I guess my only original question would have been, going back to the class, the 3 and 4, where is that off from what you're calling